Hello. We want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice, where this month, rather, we've been dealing with mental health. We've had some real good shows on mental health. We've had the National Alliance here with us. We've had NAMI here with us. We've had George Parnham here with us. So we've had some good shows on mental health since this is the hot topic right now. But today we're excited about our guest on today. Today we have with us, to my left, the Honorable Judge Jan Crocker of the 184th District Court. She is our guest on today because she is involved with the mental health court. We also have our friend Robin with us, friend and family Robin with us. And then to my right, we have our own Pastor James Nash, who is our CEO of this show. Today, we want to really spotlight Judge Jan Crocker because she is very passionate about mental health, and we wanted her on the show to give us some of her views concerning mental health and from the court system. So the first question that I'm going to ask Judge Crocker is, and first I want to thank you for being here with us, Judge Crocker. I want to know what got you interested in mental health.
Well, that's an interesting story. My very first month as a judge, I had a very serious case, dangerous case, and the defendant, after he became competent to stand trial, was found insane. All of the lawyers, the state, the DA's office agreed he was insane at the time of the crime. And 2 years later, he was ready for release from the mental hospital, and it became my responsibility to supervise him while he had outpatient treatment. And a judge maintains supervision for the maximum length of the sentence. This was a first-degree felony, so up to life. And in '97, he was ready for release, and I was responsible for him, so I had to learn something about mental illness. And it has been a very interesting journey. Fortunately, at that time, we had a new team that's part of MHMRA, the Mental Health and Mental Retardation Authority of Harris County, and it's a hospital without walls concept. And so it was a program developed in Wisconsin in the '70s. It's used all over the world, and they go to the home, and they make sure he takes his medicine, they take him to their doctor, and so forth, and they help me supervise, and I began to learn about mental illness.
Wow.
Very
That's a good way to get interested in it. And Judge Crocker, what is a mental health court?
Mental health court really involves a relationship between the mentally ill defendant and the judge.
Okay.
And the idea is that if the defendant has a judge who has a special interest in his case and encourages him and praises him, and sometimes a judge can help get through the red tape. You know, you need an appointment somewhere, that helps. And it's not just the judge. There will also be caseworkers who come to court each time I meet with a defendant, and also the probation officer. There's a mental health prosecutor, mental health defense lawyer, and then sometimes I sanction, and sometimes people have their probation revoked or they go to jail. But it's amazing to see them come to court. They come several weeks at first, and each week you see them getting better. So it gets to the point where you know them so well that you can begin to tell if they're becoming ill again, and say, man, we need to get you into the doctor today or tomorrow. And it's very interesting. Sometimes you have people who do well for years, sometimes 8, 10, 12 years, and because I've been supervising some people that long, and then they become sick again because the medicine quit working or something happened, or sometimes they go and start using drugs again or something like that. Huge correlation between drug use and mental illness. About 75% of the people in the criminal justice system who have a mental illness are using illegal drugs, and that's because they're so miserable that they turn to alcohol or drugs to feel better. The experts call that self-medication.
We were talking in the back before the show started, and we were talking about funding. And we're going to let you talk a little bit about funding for your court.
We had, this court was, I've been meeting with my own probationer since '03, so I've had over 1,000 mental health conferences, meetings in court with my own mentally ill probationers, and I supervise about 70 at a time. But in '09, the judges voted to expand the court so that mentally ill defendants from the other courts could come. And then the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council unanimously approved the plan. Problem is, the same month the plan was approved, the hiring freeze started in Harris County. We had really bad timing, and I wanted this court for a long time. Yeah, and I went to visit the mental health court in Fort Lauderdale, the very first mental health court in the country in '03, and Judge Lerner Wren there was so great with those probationers. She was just phenomenal to watch her and the relationship she had with them, and how much she cared about them and how much they really tried to get well. So I've been wanting this a long time, and we finally got it approved, and then there was no money. All of the commissioners support it. Judge Emmett supports it. So the county fathers have been very helpful, and I think it would have been funded and going, but for the fact that there just is no money, and we're really having layoffs now at the county level, so it's not a good time for any new positions, and we have to have a coordinator, at least a half-time psychiatrist, which is expensive, and then a full-time social worker who can supervise social work interns to help people in the court find beds and resources and get them into treatment programs and to work with families and that sort of thing. So now we're working on a grant. So we're going to, right now we're working on a federal grant very hard, and we're also going to seek private funding. There is a foundation that's been formed, and Maureen Hackett is president of that, and then Charles and Lily Foster are also directors of the foundation, and they're going to be raising money for the court also.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So
Because you don't want this to stop. I mean, it seems when I listen at you, I can feel the passion that you have for this, and you don't want this to stop. You want this to continue on. Pastor, this is a good friend of yours. Do you have any questions for Judge Crocker?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Judge Crocker for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
I know she's very passionate. One thing I do understand is that in order to deal with mental health, there has to be some compassion for those particular people. One thing in our community, in the African American community, sometimes we have a difficult time admitting that we have people in our families that have those type problems. And I would like to know, from the community standpoint, if there anything you'd like to see the community do that can help as far as identifying these people, what can we do in the community to help you to identify these people when they come to the court? And I know it's got a stigma that we don't like to really say, oh, I got somebody in my family that got a mental disorder. You know, we use the term, oh, that person crazy. I never like to use that, because mental disorders can run in any family. There's no color, no race, gender. So if you want to talk to the community today, the viewers, what would you say to the community as far as being involved?
Well, I think it would be really helpful to have some seminar kinds of things at churches and at community centers, and I'd certainly be willing to come out, and I know George Parnham does that all the time. The crisis intervention team from HPD, which is excellent, will come out. The people caseworkers and people who had the actual treatment programs will come out and help people figure out what to look for. But you know, it's only been the last decade that we've really begun to realize how many people in the criminal justice system are mentally ill. It's at least 25%. A lot of people think 30%. And how those people, once they become well and stable, often never come back into the system. But it's a matter of education. I mean, in the 1980s, many years ago, I've been both a prosecutor and a defense lawyer. But I was a prosecutor. It never occurred to us that some of these people might be committing the crimes because the crime is related to the illness.
That's right. Exactly.
And so it's been only the last 10 years that we've really learned about it. And so consequently, it's taking a while for everybody in the community to learn about it. Stigma, which is a problem, is not as bad in Houston as it is in a lot of places. And one reason for that, I think, is that Mental Health America of Greater Houston has really helped to educate people. The TV station, shows like this, the Chronicle is very supportive of educating people about mental illness. And so I think stigma has really diminished greatly, and a lot of people learned a lot about mental illness because of Andrea Yates' trial. As sad as that horrible story was, one of the good things that came out of that was that people were talking about mental illness
Exactly.
in our community. It's especially a problem in the Hispanic community, because so many of those people have come recently from other countries where even less is known about mental illness than here. And so people have to realize that a brain disorder is no different from having
Cancer
something
or
wrong with your
anything, yes.
pancreas or having diabetes or anything else.
Exactly.
And it's really important to have family support.
That's
That's
right.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things too, Judge, is a lot of people don't realize each day there's probably about 300 to 400 inmates released from jail. They wander around the street 3 or 4 days, end up right back in jail. Now, it's been said that probably about a 31% of the people that's incarcerated is affected by some sort of mental disorder. Now, when we see people turn out like that, and oftentimes they don't have family or friends to go to, they wander around and right back. Now, is there a way that, I know they can request treatment in there, but how many people will go in and say, I want treatment because something's wrong with me? They don't want to admit that. So it's tragic. A lot of people don't know the numbers that happens every day. So it has to be people that has the kind of compassion and are passionate enough about it to be concerned about these people, because we want them to get better.
That's right.
Sure.
We want them to get better. So those are things that we're fighting against, and to have the funding cut, that would be tragic. So what we need to do is try to get some funding for these courts, that when these people go to treatment, rather than go to jail sometime, go to treatment centers so they can get better. So
Sure.
that's the tragic thing. If we cut this funding, man, it would be totally absurd, tragic. I'm going to talk to Judge Emmett to see if I try to find some funding. Okay.
Can I just add one more
Sure,
point?
sure.
And that is, one of the things that we've learned is that giving somebody an address, even if they have an appointment time, of course there's a long wait at MHMRA because they just don't have enough funding to treat all the people with mental illness in Harris County, but that's not enough. And so if you, and Sheriff Garcia has been so good about this, he will take, I've had him take my probationers, and they take them straight to the doctor's office and deliver them to the staff. They don't have to wait. But that kind of, and their health care for the homeless, for example, will actually meet the person at the jail and walk them straight over to their clinic. And the judge can put in an order that says release at a certain time. If you have someone who's mentally ill and his grandma or grandpa, for example, are going to pick them up, you can arrange for him to be released to them at a certain time so they're not just out on the street.
See, now that's good to know, because I didn't know that. We thought that they was just turning out. So there is some help out there.
Well,
to work with them.
Right, but you've got to have social workers and a staff, because it takes a lot
It's
of
a
work. You
whole
have
group
to
of people.
coordinate
Yes,
with
yes,
everybody,
yes.
and they're very good. The jail's really very well organized, and so many people come in and go out a day. But but it takes time, and to find the right program. And does this person have a medical problem? Does he have a place to live? And in a mental health court, you address all of those as part of the probation or the pretrial diversion, which is really important. And some of these will be people with no record, and it's really important that they have pretrial diversion. And we will also explain to them, if they have a deferred adjudication, how that can be non-disclosed after 5 years from completing the probation. So it's not held against them later on. For nonviolent offenses, that can be done. Some of these people will have been in jail 8, 12, 14 times over and over, that revolving door. Those people don't really care if they have a record. That is not the issue. But getting someone to take a chance and say, and sometimes you have to educate the mentally ill person, you know? And I've seen a good caseworker sit down with somebody, and the person says, I don't want a probation, I don't want a mental health treatment, I don't like that medicine, I just want back out on the street. But a good caseworker can sit down and talk to that person and really convince them, you know, we have a medicine that might work for that, and tell them about the doctor, tell them where they might live. And I've seen people who just were adamant they didn't want any treatment after a really good social worker, a mental health specialist has talked with them, who could hardly wait to get started in the program. So that's part of it, bringing people to a mental health court for screening and to say, do you want this treatment? It's amazing what good caseworkers can do, good doctors.
I have a question now. How many defendants will be accepted into the mental health court?
Well,
each year?
we hope to take, and it'll be one of the largest mental health courts in the country.
Okay.
We hope to take about 120 a year. Those are all nonviolent offenders. And then we'll take 40 violent offenders who have already received probation. So for violent cases, it's not part of the plea bargaining going to the mental health court.
Okay.
But for the other 120, we'll get them from the outset. So it's going to be really important that if you have a son or daughter who's arrested and you know that person has a mental illness or you suspect they do, that they can call the court and say, would you consider screening my child and have them moved to the mental health.
Know.
So that's
That
why
is real good to know.
yeah, and that's why it's so important that we work with the religious community, because the pastor can pick up the phone and call the court coordinator
Wow.
and say, and we can also do it by email. Same thing with the crisis intervention team when they're called out and somebody's hit his dad, and we keep going through this over.